Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So Burning Abyss won YCS Prague in Germany over the weekend, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. A couple of people left comments asking me what my thoughts and opinions were on the event, and that's why I'm obviously doing this video. For starters, it was a really entertaining, excellent event to watch. I got on Twitch a couple hours ago, and I watched all the replays of the finals and the semifinals. I watched every single minute of those duels, and man, it was really exciting. And this was definitely not a fluke. The Burning Abyss player completely outplayed the Necros guy in the finals. If you watch that, you'll definitely have to agree. I mean, he ran circles around the dude, and the top 4 match, he was on point too. So outside of his round 7 feature, I think that was actually the first feature that I watched where he played Yosenju. He made some questionable plays in that match. Probably should have lost if the guy would have went YOLO. He had Mirror Force on the brain, but in day 2, he was playing really well. Now, when it comes to Burning Abyss, I think the deck is still undoubtedly tier 1, and I still find it pretty odd that so many people jumped off the bandwagon so quickly. And if you look at the secondary market, the prices of the cards have absolutely tanked. I mean, Dante was like a $70 card 3 weeks ago. Now you can get one for like $45. And I don't know if it's because of Burning Abyss fatigue and the fact that we have 3 new decks that just came out in the set, or if people just really, don't believe that the deck is that good anymore. Now, I think if you're going to pilot Burning Abyss right now and you want to have a lot of success in this meta, a post Secret Forces meta, I think that there's a couple of things that you're gonna have to do and understand. And it appears that I believe his name was Dennis Bigari. I probably mispronounced that, but there's a couple of things you're going to have to do and understand, and he definitely did that. For starters, I think enemy controllers should just be completely tossed out of the deck. I don't know if he ran it. In all the features, I never saw him activate it, so I'll assume he didn't run it. I mean, it was cool against Klee. It kind of seemed a little gimmicky in that matchup because that's a deck that leaves one monster on board with sacrifice, and a lot of times you could OTK them with their own monster usually. And it's kind of nice to tribute a Flying Sea against pretty much any other decks. But if you look at it against Necros, it gives you absolutely no utility in that matchup when you could be playing much better traps like Phoenix and Windblast or Karma Cut. You know what I mean? Like the whole throwing out all of the traps so that you can try and game your opponent. Well, it's already understood. You're not going to OTK Necros like 80% of the time. I just pulled that number out of my ass, but let's just be real. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to OTK that deck. I think that Mathematician back in the main deck actually makes a lot of sense. If you've been looking at Burning Abyss over the last, I would say 10 days, people have been kind of experimenting with this. It does make the deck slower, but it basically ensures that you're going to get Tour Guide by turn 2 pretty much every single game. Either you're going to draw Tour Guide in your opening 5/6, or you're going to have Foolish Burial, or Mathematician is a walking Foolish Burial. I remember when BA first came out, and they had to run Mathematician. I actually found it incredibly frustrating when my opponent would open up with Mathematician, and then I knew that they would get a Tour Guide too, because it's like, it's the perfect counter to, a player who puts like Unicorn on board. It's like, all right, well, not only am I getting a Tour Guide to potentially, set up future plays, like set a couple of Dantes in defense and stall until I can get answers. But when you would kill my Mathematician, I'm still going to get a draw. I mean, I have to eat a little bit of damage, but that's really inconsequential. And the last thing that I think is, it's pretty obvious. I think that, and this goes for pretty much every deck in the game right now that isn't Necros. I think that players are going to start having to tech in anti-Necro cards in the main deck. And the guy who won YCS Prague, he definitely did that. I believe he was running double Mind Crushes. And everybody knows how good Mind Crush is against Necros. I mean, by turn 1, there's like a 90% chance that they're going to let you know what's in their hand, let alone turn 2 when they're trying to actually special summon things like Valkyris and Trishula. This card keeps Trishula off the field, and it's just really good in every other matchup where people are going to play Deneb, and they're going to play Scout, and they're going to play cards to search those cards, and they're going to activate, Volcanic, Rocket, and search their reload reloads and everything. Like every deck is going to pretty much let you know at least a couple of cards in their hand. Somebody asked me on Dueling Network last week what I thought about Mind Crush in the main deck, and I was just like, I thought it was a given that it's staple right now. Oh, by the way, just quick side note, guess who the 7th ranked player on Dueling Network is right now? This guy. Anyways, let's go back to the video. From what I've seen, the Burning Abyss matchup versus Necros, it kind of reminds me of the Shadow matchup where you kind of have to grind your ass off. Like with Burning Abyss usually had to do with to beat Shadows, they had to constantly recycle Dante like over and over and over again, and they had to use Virgil to spin back the constructs, and then you had to get your opponent to a point where they had a whole bunch of dead spells, a whole bunch of dead Shadow fusions that they couldn't necessarily use. This matchup is kind of like that. You have to constantly, you know, be using your Dantes, using your Sirs, and ultimately you want to put yourself in a position to where even if you get Trishula, you still have a Dante or you still have an Acid Golem on board, because then the Trishula didn't really do that much. And Trishula is not a card where your opponent's going to drop it this turn and then like they're going to drop a second Trishula on you next turn. Most people only run one, and once they've Trishula'd you and they have the Trishula on board, as long as you can survive it, they can't really advance their game state that much unless they have a Manju or a Sanju follow-up. So you actually, if you see in the finals, he got Trishula'd and he still had like four random Burning Abyss in his hand, and the commentators, who were largely terrible, they were like, oh, this is so big for the Necros player. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, he still can't, even if he kills the Dante, he's still going to get his cards back. He still has 4 BAs in hand, and he can't kill him. Like, the Trishula did absolutely nothing. You have to put yourself in a position to where that you can survive the Trishula, as opposed to Sertello Knights. We want to put ourselves in a position to where you never resolve Trishula. I will say I find it really interesting that Burning Abyss players are kind of going back to things that they used to use early in Burning Abyss life cycle. I know I'm saying it like Burning Abyss has been around for ages. It came out like, what, 2 sets ago? But they're kind of getting rid of all the little cute plays that they tried to do for the past 2 months. And it's like they're realizing right now that they're going to have to grind more because they're not really getting those OTKs as consistently as they were last month. So they're going back to cards like Fire Lake that can just wreck your opponent's entire field, and going back to cards like Mathematician, which against Necros, it's like, okay, well, you can go ahead and kill the Mathematician if you want. I'm still going to draw, and I've already got my tour guide, so you ain't really accomplished shit by killing my Mathematician. I think that another thing that people have to look at is definitely Dark Law's impact on Burning Abyss. This and Mass Change Second seems like it might be borderline staple now in Burning Abyss, because it gives you like one really good disruptive card against Necros that isn't Vanity's Emptiness. Like, it gives you a semi floodgate to where anytime that they search, and they're gonna give you a search probably 10 seconds into their turn, they're gonna give you a way to trigger Dark Law. You get not only the disruptive ability, but then it's like, even if they ritual over this guy, they ritual for, you know, a Decisive Armor, that terrible card, or Valkyrus, my personal favorite one, you know, they still lose the ritual spell. So they can't get that back for free, and they still lose the resources that they had to give up. You know, those cards don't ever come back. And then it's like, if Dark Law survives, oh my God, you're playing with house money then, because now when it comes back to your turn, your opponent can't max see you, they can't effect Veiler you, they can't use Ice or Fire Hand, which I don't think that they would side against Burning Abyss anyway. So that card just does so much work in that matchup. I actually saw in the finals, the guy was sitting on Effect Veiler and he couldn't use it because the guy had Dark Law out. Now, when it does come to Necros, it's still unquestionably the best deck in the game. You know, every deck is going to lose sometimes in the finals. I personally think that if you just look at the amount of hate that people are starting to main deck for Necros, that kind of just proves my point. Let alone if you just look at it by the numbers, the deck still dominated the top 32 of this YCS. And I think that Necros players are going to probably start finding it difficult, definitely annoying, that every deck is kind of gunning for them, that every single deck is now main decking answers to combat against your deck, that people are going to be main decking, you know, multiple Mind Crushes and Mistakes and Shared Rides without any second thought, because those cards are so good against your deck, and they're also pretty good against most of the meta. You know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think. I think Burning Abyss are still really good. There's a reason why right now I'm actively trying to get Burning Abyss stuff in. I said it yesterday, when Crush card comes back, Burning Abyss is going to be the deck that benefits the most from it. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, as always. Subscribing makes life happy.